So I've been watching you, try to put the baby to sleep for the past half hour or so, bouncing her around and trying to feed her and trying to tire her out and being like woefully unsuccessful. So now we're gonna have a waking baby just next to us while we're recording this. Hopefully it will work fine.
Between the baby and the cat who is up to no good.
Up to no good. So as I was watching you, trying and miserably failing to put the baby to sleep.
I knew you were gonna go there.
You know what I thought to myself? I thought to myself, get good, scrub. Get good.
You know what I thought to myself? The same thing I always think when I see someone say that and nothing but that. Go fuck yourself.
Ooh.
That is my opinion on get good.
So you've you're a big Souls player. You play a lot of the Dark Souls.
I do.
For folks out there who don't know, Anna is one of the hallowed few who has 100% achievements on Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3.
I don't have it on Bloodborne. I'm missing one, but that's just because I'm too lazy to grind it out.
Is it like a chalice dungeon thing? Or?
It's like a spell you get in a chalice dungeon.
Oh, okay. I thought you had it in Bloodborne too.
No, I don't. It's not that I can't do it, it's just... I mean, the thing is this, number one, I don't think it's a hallowed few. It's quite a few people, right? And the second thing is having 100% achievements in any Souls game, including Bloodborne, right, isn't about skill. It's just about being patient in the grind. And in Bloodborne, I have not been patient enough. It's not hard. It's just a lot of hours.
So I'm going to go to my Steam. I'm going to look at Dark Souls 1, the Prepare to Die edition. I'm going to check the achievement list.
Don't do it on PTD. Do it on the remaster.
Oh, yeah. You're right. Dark Souls Remastered.
Because I actually have mine on the remaster and not on the Prepare to Die edition, which I also have, but there I didn't go for.
Yeah, okay, so now let's see. Global achievement stats. The Dark Soul, all achievements, 5%, 5.7%.
Okay, but out of how many players?
I mean, how do I know?
I don't know.
I guess I can go check Steam
but like
charts
5.7, it's not that few.
I'm gonna guess the number for Dark Souls 3 is probably like way lower.
I would have said higher because I think it has more players.
It doesn't have as many dedicated players. Yeah, 3.9% for Dark Souls 3. Right. It's lower. Because it's not a cult classic the way that Dark Souls 1 is. So I don't think...
It's also bigger and therefore more work.
And it's like... Because I played through the entirety of Dark Souls 1 many times. I haven't played through like Dark Souls 3 that many times. It doesn't sort of capture me the same way Dark Souls 1 does. I've sort of gradually sort of thought that Dark Souls 3 might actually be the weakest From Software game in terms of replay value.
I played all of them, but yeah, I don't disagree. But maybe
what? No, Sekiro.
Yeah, but I never actually played Sekiro because it doesn't scratch the itch that I need, which is just, you can play whatever weapon or build you want.
Yeah, that's the big thing, right? Because it doesn't feel like a From Software game in that regard. It's more like a classic action game of like, here, you are the ninja man, you have the sword.
And that's not why I play any Souls game. But before we go too far into this, and if you haven't guessed yet, the topic of today's discussion is sort of the whole get good
skill issue.
For anyone that doesn't know sort of where that comes from, this is like a Dark Souls meme almost.
Yeah.
Where people will be saying like, I can't beat this, I can't beat that, what do I do? And people just respond, get good.
It's weird because Dark Souls has a very sort of like two-headed community where it's it's known for having a very inclusive community, and people are very sort of like, helpful with each other. It's like, you do sunbrowing, jolly cooperation. That is a big part of it.
That's me.
But there's definitely also the get good aspect of it, where someone says that like, oh, I can't do this, and the comment is just like, well, that's because you suck.
Yeah.
That being said, like a nuanced take on this is that when Dark Souls players talk about get good, I mean, it sounds dismissive when you say that, right? It sounds dismissive, but
they're not wrong.
They're not wrong, because what it started as was that Dark Souls has this stigma of being a quote unquote hard game. And it's not exactly a hard game. That's the wrong way to describe it.
You just need to learn it. You need to have the patience to learn it.
What it is that it doesn't adhere to the classic rules of action games. If you do things that you are trained to think works in other games, Dark Souls is going to punish you for that.
Like bum rushing enemies.
Yeah, trying to fight 4 or 5 enemies at the same time. You have like this scale, right? Where you have Dark Souls on one side and Dynasty Warriors on the other end of the scale, which is just, if you go look at gameplay videos for like Dynasty Warriors, it's you basically fight against an army of 5,000 enemies at the same time, and you click the button to swing the sword and you kill 100 enemies in one swing.
Okay, it's like Diablo, kind of.
Even worse.
So I agree, and I do think get good in itself, saying like, yeah, you don't have the skill, you need to develop the skill, that's fine. My issue is if get good is the only thing that you say.
Yeah.
Because if get good is the only thing that you say, then you are being dismissive. You're not being helpful. I mean, we've been over this last week, right? And I want to go into this in a little more detail, I guess, today. Is I love being a sunbro, right? I have a dedicated character that just sits around Anor Londo to help people.
For people not in the know, a sunbro there are covenants in Dark Souls, where it's just like groups you can belong to in clubs. It's an NPC thing. It's not like some online thing, and they do different things. Some are for like just invading other players and fucking with them, but there's also
the Heirs of the Sun.
No, Warriors of Sunlight. Warriors of Sunlight, like which is a guild that's based on cooperation and helping other players defeat bosses that they like can't defeat by themselves. So you can just summon a Warrior of Sunlight who will come and help you fight the boss. And when that happens, you get teleported into another player's world, and then you help them fight the boss. So Anna does that a lot when she plays Dark Souls.
Yeah, are colloquially referred to as sunbros. So I do that a lot. I love that. I have a dedicated character sitting around Anor Londo to help people with Smoke and Ornstein. I have like my favorite bosses in each game to sunbro at. And I like hanging around the Dark Souls subreddits and just like giving people hopefully helpful answers to questions like, how do I do this? Where it's like,
you made guide videos for Dark Souls for our channel. You've made a very popular beginner's guide for how to fight against Smoke and Ornstein.
Yeah, that's because I was unhappy with the quality of other guides that were available at the time. Now this was years ago. There might be better content out there. Now I'm not dissing anyone.
No, diss people.
No. But I just really hate this.
Look, what Anna is saying, there's any Smoke and Ornstein video that's older than hers, she thinks is shit.
Oh my god. Okay. No. I dug myself there.
You did?
I did. How do I dig myself out? I pretend that the last minute didn't happen and go back to what I was initially saying, is that I just think telling people to get better without guiding them at all is kind of shitty behavior, and it's very, very much après moi le deluge, after me the deluge. It's the whole, well, I did it, and I'm kind of like proud of my achievement, and I would actually gatekeep it, and I don't want too many people being able to do it, because if everyone can do it, then I'm not special anymore. That's kind of how it feels to me, where it's like, I don't want to help you, I don't want to give you any tips because that would mean that it's not about being special. It means it's just about knowing the thing and practice. And I mean, I always do tell people, like, it's just practice. You got to learn the hit combos. You got to learn what works for you and what doesn't. You got to learn your weapon. And here are a couple of things you need to know, and this gear will help you.
And then they will answer, actually, no, I don't want to do any of that. They should put an easy mode in the game.
No one's ever answered that to me.
No, that was actually a thing when the game came out. Like, they were, like, that was a big debate. Like, where people were actually angry at From Software because they were so adamant that they were not going to add an easy mode to Sekiro. And like Sekiro is like the one Souls game where maybe I could see the argument and maybe they have a point, because like
there's no co-op.
Well, partly that, but also I'm gonna say that like Sekiro, you haven't played it, but I have. It is markedly harder than the other Souls games. It is way, way harder.
And you can't summon help.
No, but it is by far the hardest From Software game. I'll say that straight away. And I can see how people were like, it's not even that the game eases you into it. It starts out hard. Depending on how you play it, you can have like Madam Butterfly as the first boss fight in the game, and that is a handful.
I mean, my thoughts on this are as follows, right? You don't know how hard a game is going to be until you buy it and you play it. And you're not going to get your money back for saying this is too hard, especially with Steam's bullshit 2-hour or less play policy. Who gives up on a game after 2 hours? You can't possibly say that you've given it like a fair shot, right? And I don't think PlayStation is much better like Sony when it comes to returns. So it's like you've bought a game, and like all FromSoft games so far that you've played, maybe you've had the ability to co-op, you know, you had ways of dealing with the difficulty. And now you're stuck with this game that you've paid like big bucks for, and you're like, I can't play this, and the only thing that people are telling me is get good. But actually, you know, I have 3 kids, I have a job, I can only kind of like play for funsies, like for a couple hours on the weekends. So I spent all of this money, and I'm not going to be able to play this game, and that sucks. And I wish there was a way for me to do that, right? And they're refusing to do that. And then there's the hardcore people who are like, oh, well, you just better get good and whatever. And if you can't beat that, you can't play this game. And it's like, this is supposed to be fun, right? Like, people are paying money for it, and video games cost way too much nowadays. And they're supposed to have fun, and by all accounts, from all you've known from previous Souls games, and I bet there's like a ton of people, and I would probably be included in that bunch, who beat all the other FromSoft stuff, but who couldn't beat Sekiro or get anywhere in Sekiro, who are like, well, this sucks for me.
There's also the accessibility issue, right? That was a big part of the debate of disabled people, for example. Which is also a group of people for whom having an easy mode in games is like of actual value, or just a necessity.
Just assisted, some sort of making it more accessible to them. Absolutely. And it doesn't it you know, there's so many types of having a disability that affect your ability to play video games. We're not just talking about like missing a limb, although there are people who are missing limbs who have managed to beat Souls games with their feet, and all the more power to them, but I think they're still possibly the standout among their peers, and expecting everyone to follow suit is a lot. But it can be anything as simple as just...
That is fun, yeah, where you're just like, well, I don't see what your problem is. There's this guy on YouTube who...
Exactly.
who plays... who did a no-hit run just playing with his nostril. Why can't you do that?
Exactly. It's like, I mean, I don't see the problem. It's like Stephen Hawking did all of that stuff, and he was like in a wheelchair. Why can't everyone who has, what did he have, ALS?
Yeah, I think so.
Why can't everyone who has ALS, like, you know, live into their 60s and be like a world-renowned scientist? And it's like, your measuring stick is like way off. It's like, oh, Souls games aren't hard. There's a guy who beat the game on potatoes for controllers. Yeah, but he probably did it many, 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 many times, and he was already a standout player with normal controllers, right? And I mean, if you can make the potato work like a normal controller, I don't even see why it would be more or less difficult, right?
You know, it's interesting because like the whole idea of a difficulty being sort of like a value in itself in video games. I wonder where that comes from the beginning, because like obviously back in the Stone Age, where we come from, you know, back when the world was black and white. That's when me and Anna grew up.
Games were harder back then.
Yes, but you know what the reason was,
yeah,
right?
They were shorter.
Yeah, they were shorter, and you had to sort of like give people replay value, or not even replay value, but just
incentive to come back.
Yeah, and just you wanted the game to last longer.
Yeah.
So you made it super hard, and also obviously there were video game arcades. There were penny arcades where you put in a penny and you get to play the video game. And if you've gone to like an arcade, I mean they barely exist anymore. But if you play something like, I don't know, these, you know, you have a gun and you have to shoot to the screen with the gun thing. They are made to be like impossibly hard. You won't get further than the first or second stage or whatever, and then you're gonna die. And the point is you're supposed to feed in more quarters. You're not supposed to be able to beat the game on just one quarter, because then they can't turn a profit. So they made the game stupidly hard. And that's the thing for arcade games. Arcade games are hard, old games are hard. It was made to make money, and it was made to make the game longer. And I guess it just created a culture over time where video gaming is sort of like intrinsically linked to the idea that difficulty in itself is a value. Like games are supposed to be hard. Right?
Yeah, but that goes back to what I said earlier, right? It goes to like fragile egos that are like, I'm not special anymore if anyone can do it. But I don't even think any of these things are mutually exclusive, right? You can be like, oh, you can only get achievements in hard mode, or you can only get like all of them. Like the thing that I take offense to in this opinion of people who argue that there shouldn't be an easy mode is that they are policing how other people are playing the game, because they are not forced to play on easy mode. They have the choice to play it, right? Why? This comes from like a deep-seated thing of like, you know, also being a woman and having a man decide things about, you know, my reproductive rights.
Oh, we're
and
going
things
here.
like
Okay,
that.
okay. I'm listening.
Yeah, but this is a fact of life for many people out there already. Where it's
Are
like,
you saying that being a woman is already playing life on hard mode? Is that where we're going with this?
with regards to some things, sure, but not necessarily where I'm going with it. But I'm just like this. I get like easier triggered, let's call it like that, or more easily triggered by someone else policing, like person A policing how person B gets to live their life or enjoy their time.
I see your point now.
At the same point, obviously this is me policing, quote unquote, how FromSoft gets to do their games. I think FromSoft should, in this case, do one of two things. Either, you know, for games like Sekiro especially, have an easy mode, or just return the game to people who are like, I paid all of this money, I'm getting nowhere. I feel like this is just wasting people's time and money, basically.
Yeah, but that's one thing. I mean, we're obviously talking FromSoft now because whenever you do the get good argument and talking about difficulty in video games, it's very natural.
Yeah.
To just like immediately gravitate toward FromSoft games, because that's usually where the debate starts.
Are there other video games that have that much of like a difficulty porn thing?
Horror games, because that's part of the appeal. That is part of generating fear, right? If the game is too easy, then it's not scary. That's a thing that we've encountered in like. For example, with me and Mike when we were playing Callisto Protocol, and there are other horror games as well where it's like, if you give the player too much agency, or they get to feel very powerful and very capable and like they can handle anything that happens without issue, then they're not going to get afraid. They're not going to get stressed out. So horror games is absolutely a genre where the difficulty itself lends itself to creating the emotion that you want out of people when they're playing it. That's one thing. Then there's obviously, competitive games. Be it League of Legends, be it Counter-Strike, be it Hearthstone. Any game where you play against other players, then obviously get good skill issue. But
I mean, that's a very different thing, right? Because then you're playing against other people and you have like skill-based matchmaking, right?
Yes.
Like you have these ranks and you're just matched up. Like you hit the ceiling of your own skill until you get better. And in that case, you have no one to blame but yourself, I suppose.
No, it's true. You're right. There is matchmaking. So that the game tries to put you against other people who are of similar skill level.
Like I don't personally mind that. I mean, League has its own toxic issues that are very different from that. But I want to say skill, unless you're specifically like my siblings playing with each other and some friends, and my brother has smoked a little weed or something thinks he's much better than he actually is, and then everyone gets frustrated because he keeps tanking them.
I was like, putting your brother on blast, but it's like everyone smokes weed nowadays. No one cares.
Yeah, and he puts himself on blast.
There we go.
So, yeah. I love him, but from what I've heard is when he gets high, his skill at League tanks, but he won't admit it. He keeps losing games.
I can't imagine smoking weed, being high, and then trying to play League of Legends. That sounds like the worst high.
Yeah, and I think
it's like that is not an enjoyable high.
And I just don't enjoy League of Legends.
No, it's a shit
like,
game. There we go.
It's also I think they also like playing Dwarf Fortress. Is that what the game is called? Together.
That is the name of it.
And I know that there's a character he's not allowed to play because he just keeps killing everyone.
Nice.
So that's my brother though. That's not the game. That's just my brother. I digress.
Okay. Other games that have difficulty as part of the intrinsic experience, roguelikes, because that is another job. Because there, the goal is just to see how far can you get in a single run, and just trying to push yourself to the limit. So like there are,
but are all of them like what's it called? Rogue Legacy, where you can then level up?
No, because that's it. The original game was called Rogue. Mm-hmm. That's why the genre is called roguelikes. And that game was there was nothing transferred between runs.
Okay.
It was just like,
all right,
play it until you beat it, right? And so then there is another genre that has evolved from that, which is called roguelite. Mm-hmm. Which is a roguelike game, but it also has progression. You get to increase your power from run to run, and you get to save things between runs. Roguelites, then we're talking games like Rogue Legacy. We're talking games like Hades. I enjoy roguelites more.
I think I've never played a roguelike in that case, only roguelites.
There's a new one. It came out for PlayStation 5. It was like one of the launch titles for PlayStation 5. It's called Returnal. It was kind of hyped, but almost no one got to play it because for the first 2 years of PlayStation 5's existence, no one had a PlayStation 5.
That's true. We do have one now.
So it kind of sucks for them because they wow, imagine that. Like, wow, you get to have a launch title for a new console. Holy shit. Zelda Ocarina of Time, Mario 64, fucking Final Fantasy 7. Wow, launch title for a console. Woo! We did it, boys. We made it. We're gonna go down in history. We got a launch title for a console, and then no one can get the console for fucking 2 years.
It's the Gru meme template.
Yeah, it is the Gru meme template.
Yeah.
So it sucks for Returnal. There's like no one actually got to play that game, and now it's 2 years old and no one wants to play it, I guess.
Yeah. No, I can see that. I guess, I mean, it's like difficulty isn't a bad thing, right? Like I've been ranting about this, and I'm like, I guess, with the people, or I have more sympathy for the people who would be asking for an easy mode for a title like Sekiro, because it's like, honestly, sometimes you just wanna chill and play a game, right? And as we're parents now and have less and less time for video games, it'd be nice to be able to just coast a bit. It's like,
but should you be able to coast in every game is the question, I guess.
No, because, but coasting in like a Souls-like game isn't the same as when I say coast, I just mean manage to actually get somewhere.
But there's like, the more I think about it, the more I see like legitimate use cases for difficulty in video games. I just came up with another one. MMOs, or even expanded, any sort of open world game where you can use difficulty as a way of blocking player progression by telling people you're not supposed to be here yet. So they make certain areas of the game more difficult than others to give players something to work toward.
Or, entertainment to the people watching the YouTube video of the person who doesn't get it and spends 100 hours trying to fight that and eventually beats them. And it's like, yeah, it only took me 100 hours to do it. And people are like, fucking idiot, just play the rest of the game, come back in 5 hours, and this is gonna be like a piece of cake.
They even did that in Dark Souls 1, right? With the catacombs, right?
Yeah.
At Firelink. Where you're not supposed to be there yet. So, but there are legitimate use cases for difficulty. You know what? Here's another genre of games that are known for being difficult, and it's a genre of games that I know that you like. XCOM.
Yes.
Tactical. What's it called? Turn-based tactical games.
But the thing is, again, XCOM does exactly what I suggested earlier also for Sekiro, is that there are achievements you're only going to get in hard.
Yeah.
There are things you're only going to get for doing it. Because the thing is, like, what is difficulty for? Going to make you feel good about yourself, right? Yeah, like, I did it. And you get something that other people don't get to show for it. You get your achievement, right? You get your kudos. You did it. So... yeah, and in XCOM, you have a choice.
It's true.
Yep. You have easy, normal, classic, and hard, I think.
Iron Man,
yeah, that's it. And that does it quite nicely, I think. See, and it's like, it can be like a skill check, it can be a gear check. Diablo, for example, with the greater rifts, how far can you go? But none of that prevents you from playing the rest of the game, right? It's just like,
you can set your own difficulty. Diablo 3 is like, it has a difficulty slider of like 20 different options or something.
But you're always going to be able to play the game and play it with other people. So I mind difficulty if it just completely locks you out of the experience. Especially if you can't know in advance that you don't have whatever that takes.
Now, this is tricky because, like, I don't know if you know this, people, but I play a game called Warframe. Don't know if you know that about me. I've kept that to myself, so it might come as a shock to people out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I have been part of this debate in Warframe. Where I have argued that Warframe has gotten too easy, right? So I've been one of the proponents of like increasing difficulty. Because like we said before, there are only 2 games. There are only 2 games that exist. One of them is Dark Souls and the other is Dynasty Warriors. Those are the only 2 games that you can compare other games to. So you can take any game and then you can say, I think this game should be more like Dark Souls, and someone else will say, no, I think this game should be more like Dynasty Warriors.
I feel like that's an x-axis. There has to be a y and a z-axis of
No.
There has to be 4 other games as well.
No, these are the only 2 games, and so it's like a spectrum, and like where are you on the scale from Dark Souls to Dynasty Warriors?
But that's why I said there has to be 4 other games.
Right.
This is the x-axis, and then there has to be a y and a y and a z-axis as well.
Okay, so what are those parameters? Because when it comes to Dark Souls versus Dynasty Warriors, it's like, do you fight against your enemies 1-on-1, or do you fight 1 against 1,000 at the same time?
I don't know. It might be on, do you build things, or do you have any sort of progression or not? So I guess it's the rogue.
Okay, so you have rogue
to Minecraft. Yeah.
Minecraft.
Well, you build a shit ton of things, and you have all of this progression.
I feel it's weird to have rogue on one end and Minecraft on another end.
Okay, rogue to Rogue Legacy.
No, Rogue Legacy is just Rogue Legacy is somewhere on the scale, right?
Okay. No progression to all the progression. What is all the progression?
All the progression in video games. Which game is only about progression and... Factorial? What?
The factory must grow. You have to make more stuff to get more stuff and unlock more stuff.
I mean, in that case, you could just say that like it's cookie clicker. rogue on one end, cookie clicker on the other end.
Okay, fine. The rogue to cookie clicker scale.
Okay,
yeah.
So that's the y-axis. Rogue on one end, cookie clicker on the other.
Okay, progression.
Yeah, and then you have Dark Souls and Dynasty Warriors as the difficulty slider, I guess.
And then you have the are you PvE to PvP?
Oh, we're gonna have a z-axis as well.
Yeah, that's what I say. You have 3.
Okay. So the z-axis is PvP versus PvE.
Yeah.
Well, what's the most like brutal sort of grueling PvE experience or PvP experience then?
I don't know. I never play any of these, but so I don't know which one is the most grueling. But it's
probably
like
fighting games.
Yeah.
Right.
Street Fighter.
Sure. Put
Street Fighter to Stardew.
Yeah. Street Fighter to Stardew Valley, I see that. Because that is the pure PvE experience where there's no enemy. There is no enemy in the game.
Well, there are. Okay, it's the Street Fighter to Animal Crossing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
We were going the same place. Okay, so Street Fighter to Animal Crossing.
Mm-hmm. Rogue to Cookie Clicker. And the Dark Souls to Dynasty Warriors. There you go. Okay. That is your 3-dimensional scale where you can put every game that has ever been made somewhere on that 3-dimensional graph or whatever.
Great. Now that we've digressed super far, but I did like where we went with that.
Oh yeah. No, because like that has been the talk in Warframe. And this is something that happens with every game that has been around forever and games that have constant updates. It's happened in Diablo. It's happened in Warframe. It's happened in all live service games, which is power creep. Because you keep on... Like Hearthstone. Hearthstone has had power creep. You keep on putting out new content for the same game. And you want people to buy the new content. And the way to do that is to make the new content be able to do something that you couldn't do with the old content. You increase the power fantasy or whatever. And then you make your guy stronger. If you don't make guys stronger, then they have no reason to get the new things. And eventually, all the challenge is gone from the game. So what do? Well, now we have to create more difficult enemies. And then, when you've done that, now we have to create better weapons. And then now we have to create more difficult enemies. Eventually you can't do this because there's a limit to where you can't add more mechanical difficulty, right? Or it's hard. all people are gonna say like, well, just why don't you just make better AI? That is the dumbest fucking thing. Whenever anyone says that, we're like, make the AI better. What does that even mean? Right? If you've played Warframe.
Mm-hmm.
I played Warframe with you. If you have a rocket launcher with a like 20-meter radius blast or whatever that can shoot through walls, so you can like nuke an entire room full of enemies before you have even entered the room. You can kill them from another room and you don't even see them. What level of better AI is going to make that enemy a challenge for you?
Well, I have two thoughts. I mean, this isn't in response to the better AI thing. That's nonsense. I agree. In terms of Warframe, I kind of agree where I think I see the argument for making it a bit harder. Number one, my major struggle in Warframe is and always has been...
It goes too fast.
Traversal, exactly.
Yeah.
But that might just be me. And number two, my experience as someone playing Warframe a little bit, but not like a super big amount, and like playing all of these different Warframes is like at the end of the day when leveling them up, I never bothered to even learn what a lot of them did because I had my trusty big boom weapon and I just did big boom damage, and sometimes I had a Warframe that helped with that a little bit more than others.
Yeah.
And I just went big boom. So I'm gonna say if you want to up the difficulty in a good way in Warframe is maybe make content that actually requires you to know how to operate your Warframe and all of its strengths and weaknesses a bit more than currently, where it's really like, hey, make things where party setup matters, maybe where you have to do the old school thing of looking for a group but not just anyone, right? Where you're like, hey,
you can't anymore. Like, you can't anymore. And this is exactly what happened to Diablo 3 as well. Diablo 3 at launch, you had the monk, you had the wizard, you had the demon hunter, you had the witch doctor, you had the barbarian, you didn't have the crusader. The crusader came later.
Is an expansion.
Yeah. But the point is, they all had different roles, right? Wizard was DPS, barbarian was tank, monk was healer / support, whatever, right? But as power creep happens and everyone gets these ridiculous sets that does like, plus 500,000% damage on this skill, whatever. What happens in the end, where we're at, is that all the classes are DPS.
But that's where I'm getting. You can at some point, especially in a live service game, take a step back and say like, okay, we're gonna rebalance things.
A stat crunch, right?
And
nerf everything across the board. Remove a 0 from every value.
And it doesn't have to be all content, right? There's like plenty of content you can and should be able to do. But if we're just talking end game content, right? Or like the challenge then is like, there's all of this other stuff you can do if you play whatever way. But there's a couple of things where you really have to think about it, how you're going about it, where the difficulty is in thinking, in bringing the right tools.
I mean, they tried to do that with the Eximus update, and like how Eximus enemies are like, you can't see them and you have to like pay attention to what they're doing, and that's a step in the right direction. But they've talked about this like with the power creep that exists in the game today, with how ridiculously overpowered everything is. It has become almost impossible for them to create mechanical difficulty, where like when they are trying to make challenging content, the only option that they have is just like
big
health bars. Because mechanical difficulty assumes that you're on an even playing field with your enemy. Like in Dark Souls games, where you fight enemies one by one. And if you
they
try
do
to
just
fight,
as much damage to you as you do to them.
And if you try to fight 5 enemies at the same time, you're gonna get your shit pushed in. That's not where Warframe is today. Warframe is more in the Dynasty Warrior scale, where you're supposed to just kill 1,000 enemies at the same time, and in such a setting, it's very, very difficult to create mechanically challenging content where you actually have to react quickly to what your opponents are doing. I miss that about the game. I wish. I've talked many times about how I think there should be a stat crunch. How they should nerf the hell out of everything in the game. They should remove a 0 from every weapon in the game. But they've I don't know. It's a game that's gone down this road for so long now, and you know, when they try to make new content, they have to just assume that it's going to be like this. So they put out, you know, oh, here you have to fight against 5,000 enemies at the same time, because that's what difficulty is in this game now. So what they're doing now with the latest updates is that they are simply just not letting you use your Warframe, not letting you use your weapons, not letting you use your mods, trying to put you back in that sort of like depowered state where you started the game from the beginning. And in a way, that's refreshing.
But that's not what people are gonna be playing over and over again.
We'll see. They put out a new update. It's big. I haven't had the chance to play it yet. One big part of it is that they're adding roguelike elements to Warframe. Where it's like, oh, today you get to pick between these 3 Warframes from your arsenal. Which one? Oh, this one? Haven't leveled that one up yet. Well, shit, that's one of your 3 picks for today. So, I mean, I guess I can just level up. I can put 8 Forma into every single weapon in the game. I guess that's a project, but no. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I think the gameplay wise, I'm probably gonna like Duviri once I play it. I just haven't done it yet. But we're veering wildly off topic.
I guess another thing with difficulty, although I'm way outside of my not comfort zone, just knowledge zone. It's like all these mobile games that want you to pay money, where it's like they'll lure you in, like the free ones, with things that are easy enough in the beginning, but then you progress a bit and it gets too hard. But if you pay, you get this stuff, then you get to bypass that. But that's more a monetization scheme I'm not a particular fan of.
Yeah, I mean, is this from you playing Fallout Shelter and you're getting hammered with mobile ads all the time because looking at ads gives you bonuses when you play that game?
Not necessarily, because I don't think any of the games that I'm getting these ads for are like that. It's just the whole concept of whales, right? Of
pay to win.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not difficulty.
Well, that's skipping difficulty, isn't it?
Well, it's more like you get to pay to be in an overpowered state, and if you're like, that's not just that, like it's hard if you're not paying. It's like straight up impossible. You can't keep up with a whale. Like that's by design.
Okay.
So
but I mean, isn't this kind of where Blizzard is going with their stuff?
Yeah, that's why I'm not excited about the idea of Diablo 4. I know people are like, oh, play the beta, it's probably going to be good. But like, they're hiding all of that shady monetization stuff in the beta. You won't get to see that, like how predatory it's going to be until the game is like out proper. But we saw it with Diablo Immortal. And they made so much money from Diablo Immortal. But we'll see though, because Blizzard got kicked out of China.
Oh.
They got completely kicked out of China.
How did they do that?
It's like in Thailand, where it's like, if you are not a Thai citizen, you're not allowed to be like the majority owner of a company or whatever. So you have to have like a Thai business partner and that Thai business partner owns like 51% of the business and you own 49% of the business. And then eventually you're going to get screwed over because that's what it's like doing business in Thailand. It's like that, where in China, for a Western company to be able to operate in China, they have to be like in a business partnership together with a Chinese company.
Person, yeah.
And not just a person, but
Okay.
and they have like these big companies that are sort of like these big titans that everyone has to do business with, be it Tencent and NetEase. Because I think Warframe is like a Tencent affiliated, and I think Blizzard was NetEase. I think that was it. Anyway, then there was going to be renegotiations of the contract, and the Chinese, I think like, let's say it's NetEase. I don't remember, but let's say it is NetEase. They thought that Blizzard was lowballing them, I guess, and they wanted a bigger cut of the profits from Blizzard's activities in China, and Blizzard was like, we don't want to do that. So we're going to cancel this partnership because we believe that we can find other business partners in China. So they just let that contract expire, and like, they didn't renew it. And then it turns out they couldn't find a new business partner in China.
So everyone got fucked.
So everyone got fucked, and now they're no longer allowed to operate in China, which is fun because they have been doing so many things
for China.
Just changing up the company to suit Chinese sensibilities better. Even going so far as censoring undead character models in their games, because apparently showing like skeletons and like skulls and bones and stuff is sort of taboo in Chinese culture. So they had to like, yes, I know there's an undead faction in World of Warcraft. Yes,
and Hearthstone, and there's an
so they have different. They have different art for cards in China for like undead characters where they're not like undead. And they've done a bunch of stuff just to suit Chinese sensibilities, and also like the mobile games is huge in China. There's so many whales, and Diablo Immortal was made for the Chinese market. Now apparently Diablo Immortal is on a separate licensing deal, so Diablo Immortal is still operational in China. But no other Blizzard game, so no more Hearthstone, no Overwatch, no World of Warcraft, nothing. All of that is gone. They can't play it in China. Only Diablo Immortal. But that's going to run out eventually, that as well. But I think, obviously, Diablo Immortal was just testing the waters just to see how predatory they could be in their monetization schemes. And I'm 100% sure that we're going to see the exact same predatory practices in Diablo 4, which is why I'm like just not excited for it at all.
Yeah.
But Diablo is like, it's not a difficult game. It's never been a difficult game.
No, I suppose not. Sort of circling back to the original get good, difficulty, good, bad, something in between. I think games should be accessible, right? There's no problem for me with a game being hard if you can still play it, if you have some sort of hindrance to that. That could be time, or that could be a physical disability.
I've seen a disabled person say, we're like, oh, they don't have an issue with, for example, Elden Ring, because what they do as a disabled person is they just grind the shit out of the game.
Yeah, you
so
can.
They're like, if you put any sort of like early farming spot, put a spot early on in the game, we're like, here, just grind this for 100 hours and be completely over-leveled. If you do that, then it's like, oh, then it's fine.
Yeah,
then the game is accessible for me.
Exactly, and you just summon someone from Millennia, and there you go. I do that too. I cannot beat that boss by myself.
No, I think I've summoned help for more bosses in Elden Ring than I've done in any other From Software game. But also I think that was because
Lack of patience?
It's the end game. They went overboard bosses in the end game. They went overboard with difficulty, and also the end game is just a boss rush. The final 20 hours of Elden Ring is just fight boss after boss after boss after boss, like right after each other, and all of them are just trying to one up each other with a difficulty porn. And I just didn't really enjoy that.
Yeah. But that's what I said. You have your methods of dealing with it, and I just think it's kind of shitty if you take people's money and then they can't get anywhere.
Is it fine if you give them ample warning in advance, where you're like, this game is gonna fuck you in the ass, as part of like the marketing?
Yeah, but I never see any of the marketing.
Well,
how can you be sure that people would know?
I think there are like commercials for Dark Souls that are like that.
Yeah, but
like,
I've never seen a single one of them. You can't like guarantee that people are gonna see that, right?
This game is gonna find out where you live and it's gonna strangle your cats.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oof. Yeah, but you can't ensure that people have seen these ads or whatever. I don't know. I think at the end of the day...
You can eat a spicy habanero pepper and you think that's going to prepare you for Dark Souls.
At the end of... At the end of the day, video games are a hobby. People are supposed to have fun. You're paying for that, right? And I don't know. I personally think that dictating whether or not other players get to enjoy it is kind of like, come on, just like do your own shit, right? It's like, I'm glad you don't get to experience this. Okay, then.
I hear you, and like to an extent, I agree. But there's like, I don't know if I feel like if there is some sort of value in difficulty, if it has some sort of intrinsic value, because there are games you play a lot of Darkest Dungeon, for example.
Yeah.
That game doesn't have an easy mode.
Yes, it does.
It does?
Yeah, it has different difficulty settings.
Okay.
Of course it does.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. That's fine.
And it's like, I'm not arguing that difficulty is bad. I'm just saying I think people should be able to play games if they like the idea of it. It's
funny because I brought up horror games, right? Uh-huh. And it's still like, Dead Space does have difficulty settings. You can play it on like easy, medium, hard, or whatever, even though that actually sort of like really affects your experience. Because scarcity, that makes you feel stressed. If you have too much ammo, then you're not going to be scared. We talked about this when we played Dead Space, because you only played 1 and 2. We never made it as far as 3, and that was one of my big complaints about Dead Space 3 is that game has DLC. Not DLC. Sorry, it has microtransactions.
Right.
That's it. It has microtransactions where you can just buy the good gun. And microtransactions have no place in a horror game, because talk about removing all of the tension and all of the stress. Whereas like, nope, you running out of ammo, not going to be an issue. Just pay $1 to refill your gun.
Yeah.
That doesn't work for me but that comes down to like what sort of experience are you trying to give people. In a horror game, you're trying to make them feel scared, right? But there are other emotions as well that you can try to give people, and what if it is the sense of pride and accomplishment? Yes, I know I use those words, but what if that's the thing? What if that's what you get out of this game, where like it markets itself as a hard game and you get to feel like a cool and competent person for being able to play the hard game?
But that's what he said. Maybe just disable achievements for anything other than the hard mode, and then you can have something to show for yourself. I did think of something I wanted to say, sort of in defense of FromSoft's stance, where I'm like, I admire them for it, which is that
artistic vision or what?
Sorta. It's like nowadays we talked about Blizzard, right? Like just doing things that gets them the most money out of people. Where I said, I wish video games, and I understand how businesses working in, product development myself. But I wish video game companies would go back to making the best possible game and not the most profitable possible game. And I have to hand it to FromSoft there. Yeah. They are choosing their vision over money.
Yeah, and that is something that I've talked about with Warframe.
And I admire that.
That is something I've talked about with Warframe, that a lot of their problems right now with the game being, I don't know, too easy or too much power creep or trying to go in too many different directions at once or whatever, that they have historically not been all that good at sticking to their guns. When they have received criticism, they have been pretty quick to sort of adapt to that and try to just... That is a company that has spent way too much time trying to make everyone happy at the same time, and instead of sticking to their own creative vision and sticking to their guns. If someone doesn't like it, then they're like, oh, I guess we were wrong. Sorry. How can we make it up to you? How can we make you happy? And that has happened whenever they have, for example, tried to introduce difficulty into the game, be it mechanical difficulty or any other kind, and people complain, no, it's too hard, and immediately they just take the difficulty away because they're afraid of upsetting people.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, this is where everything's going, right? I think we had like the fortune or whatever, the good luck to sort of grow up at a time when video games weren't profitable yet.
Well, they must have been a little bit profitable, otherwise people wouldn't have kept making them.
In the late 80s, early 90s, they were not making money off of that stuff, right? And it wasn't like the super big bucks weren't in video games.
Don't tell me that Nintendo were not making money in the 90s.
I'm not saying they weren't making money, but they weren't making like...
Everyone had a Nintendo at home.
I didn't. The super big bucks, right? It wasn't the way it is now. It wasn't like it is now. No, and that meant you had a little more focus on, we're just gonna do what we think is fun. We want to make a good game. And now the focus is, we want to make a profitable game. And you can't come back from that. You cannot come back from that. It's like investors, you're like, I want to make a game. Someone has to give you money to make that game, and then they're gonna dictate where you're going with it.
Oh yeah, no, investment bankers have ruined our society because now everything is just about like maximizing profit for shareholders in the short term, and that is the only sort of guiding principle for any sort of decision any company makes.
And there's only so much you can do as an indie developer in terms of content size and whatever, and then you have your great your great first game that's very small but that kind of caters to something that people want, and then you get investment and you get money, and then you do the same thing as everyone else because the money decides what you're doing.
Now you've got an investment, right? Now some sort of fucking investment firm.
Now you're beholden to someone.
Yeah, because now they own like an equity stake in their company, and now suddenly there is a demand for growth. Constant growth, exponential growth, and when you can no longer deliver exponential growth, they're going to sell you off and move on to the next project, and
or make you adapt what you're doing to suit that.
It's like that comic drawing I saw, like post-apocalyptic thing of like some sort of like remnants of humanity huddled around some campfire as the world is ending. And one person is just like, yeah, sure, we destroyed the planet, but for a beautiful moment in time, we were able to generate a lot of value for shareholders.
Yeah, so I don't think we're gonna get to feel the same way about AAA title releases again.
I don't know. don't know, because we did have Elden Ring, right?
But that's what I was saying. FromSoft is weird because they're just kind of sticking to their guns about their vision. They're unusual.
Yeah, no, that's true.
They're not the norm. And it's like the last time I got that sort of from a really big game, it's kind of Skyrim.
Yeah.
There's no weird there was actually, oh my god, I forgot about the Creators Club thing. They tried to make mods like pay for that, but they got rid of that eventually. Where it's like,
oh yeah, I remember the backlash was ridiculous.
Yeah. So they tried, but they got bitch slapped hard.
Yeah.
But they did try.
Yeah, but Skyrim unfortunately became such a big popular seller that they're like, why should we ever make another game? We can just sell Skyrim over and over again.
We can just resell Skyrim. Yeah, that is true.
Same with GTA, right? GTA 5, before that there was like a timeline of like every year or every 2 years there was like GTA 1, GTA 2, GTA San Andreas, GTA Vice City, GTA 4, blah, 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 blah. Then came GTA 5, and boom, GTA Online. And suddenly, any sort of money that they had made before that was peanuts in comparison. GTA Online made them more money than it's humanly possible for like any computer to count. And since then, no new Grand Theft Auto game in the past 10 years or so, because why would they?
I just realized we got very far away from the difficulty topic and we went into we're old farts and we're nostalgic territory, which is the subject for another podcast.
Complaining about how society has gone to shit.
No, but I think I have said everything I have to say about how I feel about difficulty in video games. I think I made my position fairly clear.
So are you a yes or a no?
I am in between. I'm saying, sure, be difficult, but be accessible for others who want to just have a good time.
Yeah.
If I've bought your game, I should be able to play your game. That's my stance on difficulty. Yeah. If I have paid for it, I should be able to play it one way or another.
I mean, I see that stance. I'm of two minds about it because, like, while I agree with you and, like, that sounds nice and all that, I have to acknowledge that I have, argued both sides regarding different games.
Of course you have. You're a lawyer.
Yeah. So for Warframe, for example, I have argued that I think that they are listening too much to players who demand accessibility, and I think they should stick to their guns and they should have the balls to make the game harder, even if that's going to make some people unhappy. That is something I genuinely feel about Warframe. At the same time, like, I acknowledge the accessibility argument when it comes to games like Sekiro. But at the same time, I admire FromSoft from saying "fuck you" to people who want it. I do that. I don't know. I don't know how I feel.
I agree with that, and that's why I said, right. I do admire FromSoft for sticking to their guns on this. Like genuinely do. I don't think your Warframe argument is actually contradictory to the other part, because you're not arguing for making Warframe so hard that people are locked out of all the content. You're just saying, make it challenging, right? There's probably still going to be like 95% of the game that people are just going to be able to play just fine. You just want something in the game that is harder. You're not saying make it so difficult that all of these people aren't going to be able to play any Warframe at all.
Well, what I'm saying is that on the Dark Souls 2 Dynasty Warriors slider, I would like Warframe to move a bit closer to Dark Souls on that slider. I would prefer to have... Because I'm not talking about like, just keep Warframe the way it is, but then create some more challenging content on the side. That's not going to work. That's not going to work with the power creep that exists in the game today.
No, you'd have
to adapt the entire game.
But it's still, you're not advocating for it to be adjusted to be like Sekiro, where you're just immediately locked out of Warframe if you can't do this.
No, what I'm arguing is that a mission that today takes like 90 seconds to complete, I would maybe want that to take 5 minutes to complete instead. I would like when I enter a room to have to look at like, okay, where are the enemies in this room? There. Okay, in what order am I supposed to take them out? It's like I don't want to just click a button and now everything in the room is dead and I didn't even get to see how many they were.
I just think that you're viewing yourself, I don't know, too much of a... I think you're still on the same side of the discussion as I am when it comes to the difficulty with the Warframe thing, because the thing is, the question is like, do I want people locked out of the entirety of the game, or maybe just accept that some of them will be locked out of part of the content, right? Yeah. And you're like, I will accept someone being locked out of part of the content. I'm gonna go here and say, Stardew is one of the games I have probably sunk the most hours into.
Stardew Valley.
I don't have all the achievements in Stardew. There is a part of the game that requires you to play like an in-game arcade game.
Okay.
I suck at. I'm terrible at it. I'm never gonna beat that and get that. So there's 2 achievements related to that I'm never gonna get, and that's fine. I'm locked out of that part of the game. I can accept that. I'm perfectly fine doing all of the rest of it, right? It's just that's a part of it where it's like, well, that's not me. That's not gonna happen for me, and that's fine. I get so much enjoyment out of the rest of it that who gives a shit?
Do you think there's a... do you think that there is a bias when it comes to games that you yourself are like very mechanically good at playing? Because like I stopped and thought about that for a while with the Warframe stuff. It was like, on one hand, when you have the Sekiros and whatnot, you have the argument that games are too hard. Some games. And then I was like, is the counter argument possible that there are games that are too easy? Maybe, but then I started thinking like, is the game objectively too easy, or is the game too easy for me? And is that because of power creep and overpowered gear, or is it because I have become so mechanically proficient at this game that difficulty no longer exists for me, but it still would be difficult for other players even if they had the same gear that I have? Hard to tell, right?
Well, there's also that, and then there's games where difficulty isn't part of the experience.
Yeah.
Like Animal Crossing. Not everything is about being difficult or easy. Some things are just about being there. Or like Final Fantasy. Final Fantasy isn't about, is this a hard fight or not? I mean, the remake kind of goes more into challenging things, but it's just kind of like...
Did you read the person who reviewed they reviewed Resident Evil 2 remake, and they criticized it for like not being a walking simulator?
I did not. What?
Yeah, because they were like, I don't know, they probably never played a horror game before, and they got that in their lap, and they were like, oh, but now it's stressful and zombies are attacking, and they have this beautifully modeled supermarket, and I was hoping to just like in my own leisurely place go around and look at all of these nice pixels and textures, and like a walking simulator, which is just a game that is just about walking around and looking at things.
I don't know. I don't even read video game reviews anymore because it's like, yeah. The thing is, not every game or difficulty. Here's a fun one for you for difficulty and the discussion of is it too difficult or not. A game that we've played. So, Baba Is You.
Baba Is You.
The difficulty
Folks,
here...
go watch our Let's Play of Baba Is You, where it's like every episode is like an hour long, and it's just me and Anna arguing with each other over every single level and how to beat it.
But the difficulty there is like, are you good at... I was going to say, are you an idiot or not? But that's not true. It's... Are you good at like logical thinking and just chaining thoughts?
Should Baba Is You have an easy mode?
No, it's just, I don't know. It just popped into my head that it's an entirely different kind of difficult from everything we've talked about before, right? Puzzle games.
Yeah, okay, there we go. That's the title for this episode. Baba's You Should Have an Easy Mode. That's the title for this episode.
It just has like the Microsoft Word paperclip telling you things. It has Clippy giving you hints.
Did you know that was a thing in the new God of War game?
Clippy giving you hints?
Yes. Well, Atreyu, I guess, but yes, he's the Clippy in this game.
Oh.
Where
it's not nearly as fun as what I imagined.
Because it's like a puzzle help. Because God of War is like a platform game. It has like platforming sections and puzzles besides the combat. And in the new God of War Ragnarok, they have like the puzzle help, where it's like, oh, if you get stuck, Atreyu is gonna give you hints as to how to solve the puzzle. But they went way overboard. It's like super aggressive. So like you enter the room and there's the puzzle. If you haven't solved the puzzle by yourself in like 5 seconds, then Atreyu will tell you how to solve the puzzle.
Can you turn that off?
You can turn it off, yes.
Okay.
So people are like, you have to turn this off. Otherwise, Atreyu's just immediately going to tell you how to solve every puzzle in the game. And it's
backseat driver.
Yes, and it ruins the entire experience.
Oh, this kind of goes into another podcast I want to have in the future of what makes a good follower.
Ooh.
Or a bad follower, or what you like in a video game companion. So let's not go too deep into this, because no. I would like to discuss that some other time.
That is a topic for another time.
Yeah.
But yeah, just the idea of, I mean, so I guess I can see the idea of like even logic games and puzzle games. Like I've seen streamers play Resident Evil games that also have puzzles, and they're just stuck. They're just hard stuck for like an hour, with just like, here is the statue, turn it around different ways so that the shadow becomes like an eagle or something when you hold it to the light.
Man, it's like Skyrim has these Draugr dungeons, right? Where you have to arrange these pillars in the correct way. And most, like, there's always a thing telling you what it is. And like 99% of the time it's like super easy and obvious. But sometimes the solution is so hidden in some weird dark corner, or even though you see it and you enter what you think you see, like there's something fucky about it to where I'm like, screw this, and I just go to the UESP and look it up.
Yeah. Because
it's like, I don't have the patience for this. This isn't the game I'm trying to play, right?
That's more like Myst or Riven or those kind of like puzzle solving games where the entire game is just...
Yeah, if that's the game, great. But if that's not the game and this is just keeping me from getting my next goddamn dragon shout word, then I'm gonna go and I'm gonna look this up and then I'm gonna keep playing the rest of the game.
See, that wasn't always an option when we grew up back in the Stone Age, where people communicated to each other via smoke signals. You had to buy like these books, basically, like just guides for games. You remember actually having like you buy a like game companion thing?
The internet was around.
Well,
the internet was around. It took you more effort to find because you couldn't just easily Google it, and you had to go down some pretty dark parts of the internet.
Wikis did not exist.
One of the first game wikis that I saw actually was UESP, so the unofficial Elder Scrolls pages, right? Which is like the wiki for all things Skyrim, Oblivion.
Like IGN's game walkthroughs was an early thing.
That too. I did that for... They had good Pokemon stuff, but I did... And this was Morrowind. So this was before Oblivion, when was Morrowind released. They had even like a map and stuff like that. Not the interactive maps that they have today, but they did have a map and they did have pages for things. Because God, did you need that for Morrowind?
Is that an argument as well in this debate? Was like, hey, everyone complaining about, you need to get good. screw you with demanding easy mode. No, you need to get good. I bet every single one of you has looked up on the internet how to do a thing in a game that you couldn't figure out by yourself. Every single one of you have went to Google and typed, how do I X in game Y?
Yeah, but they did it in incognito mode, so no one ever will find out except for their internet service provider.
They did it in incognito mode, so it doesn't count.
No, but you could look things up. Like, you looked things up for, like, how can I save Eris? You went on the internet and you spent hours.
Oh, hit me in my childhood.
I did. So this was what, 1997?
Yeah.
Yeah. You spent hours in 1997 on the library computer because that had internet. When maybe you didn't at home. I don't know. We had internet in 1997, but my dad was always big into that kind of stuff. But it was around. It was just not as easy to find, and there was a pretty good chance you were going to get your computer infected with a virus. Also, you had to look at so many titties that were slowly loading in because
Did you do that? Did you look at slow loading titties?
Well, it's just all of the computer stuff was kind of like on these pages that were trying to get you to look at and pay for porn, right?
Oh, okay.
Do you remember that? Looking for cheats or just
and
hints.
Being hit with porn? No.
The ads were always there. To me, that is so interlinked. Early video gaming and trying to download like cheats or cracks or whatever. Like finding oh my god, Monkey Island. Finding the solution to this puzzle in a Monkey Island game. And by the way, Monkey Island game has difficulty options.
It does?
Mm-hmm. There's two. There's the easy and there's the not normal.
So wondering about that, because I was thinking about like LucasArts games and like Sam and Max, and not sure those had difficulty modes. I don't know.
I'm not 100% certain about 1 and 2, but 3 definitely had a difficulty mode, and I do think 2 had it as well, but I'm not sure. Yeah, but and of course, we were talking about how video games were harder when we were kids.
Yeah.
But they also had cheat codes, right?
It's true.
That's something that most video games nowadays don't have anymore.
No, that's right.
But like God mode, like you enter the thing, you play Heroes of Might and Magic, and you just enter a code word, and all of a sudden you have like all of the money.
As a kid, that's actually how I played like Doom and Duke Nukem. I played those games in God mode. So
they kind of like, even games that didn't officially have an easy mode, they kind of had that built in because the cheat codes weren't added by someone who cracked the game and added a cheat code. They were put there by developers. You always had that option. You just kind of had to find out about it. They weren't printed in the game manual. You had to go to the internet and look that up, but super existed.
But you think they were just put in there for like dev build purposes? You think they were always meant for the players?
I think so.
Maybe. I guess. So what you're saying is that like easy mode has always been there. Mm-hmm. Easy. So the demand for easy mode is not the new weak paper thin generation of wussy kids. No. Easy mode has always been a thing in video games, and we've all been using them since the beginning of time.
Yeah. Like, what is it? Up, down, down, left, right.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah.
Up, down, left, right, BA, start, I think is the...
Yeah. It's always been there, and...
ID, DQD, ID, GFA, I think. ID Software are the people who made the Doom games. So all of the cheat codes for IDs for Doom always started with ID. You had ID Clip, that was the no-clip mode, so you could run through walls. ID DQD, I think, was the God mode. And ID GFA, I think, was giving you every weapon in the game.
No, it has to be IDGAF.
No,
'Cause that's also the abbreviation for I don't give a fuck.
Yes, I know, but it wasn't.
Aw, man.
Yeah, I know. I'm so sad. It wasn't. I don't give a fuck. I think it was IDGFA. I don't think that acronym existed back then. Acronyms wasn't really a thing.
I like the ones for Heroes 3. A lot of it was like Matrix references. Like I think Nebuchadnezzar and Enter the Matrix and stuff like that was codes for things. Yeah. So easy mode has always been there, and it's kind of more recent that some games have just taken it away. Is what this old fart has to say about the subject. Yep.
You're not that old. Not yet.
I was just saying that because you're older than I am.
You don't need to. I don't need to tell people that.
He's not much older.
Anyway, you think that's good?
I think that's good.
You think we're gonna round out the conversation here?
Sure. I've probably upset a person or two.
I hope so. That's the point of these podcasts. All right. Thanks everyone for listening to this week's podcast. We're gonna try to keep it up.
Yeah.
We're gonna try to make this a weekly thing. Try to have a topic. I'm not sure we're always gonna have a topic. I'm gonna try to have a topic, video game related. Hopefully, maybe even have guests in the future. What do I know? We'll see if it takes off. But thanks for listening, everyone.
And see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon. And bye bye.